I sat across the table from the venture capitalist who'd rejected my business pitch 3 years ago. The one who looked at my handmade prototype and secondhand suit and said I didn't have the polish to succeed in tech. And now he was begging me to let his firm invest in my company that was valued at $85 million. And I watched him squirm as I said the exact same words he'd said to me. I do and think you re the right fit for where we heading. And the look on his face, that mixture of shock and desperation, was worth every night I'd slept in my car, every meal I'd skipped, every moment of doubt I'd pushed through to get here. Let me take you back to the beginning. To the girl who grew up in a one-bedroom apartment in Detroit, with a single mom working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on. We were poor, the kind of poor where you water down the milk to make it last longer, where you wear the same jeans until they have holes, where heat is a luxury you only use when it's below freezing. My mom cleaned offices at night and worked retail during the day. I'd come home from school to an empty apartment and do my homework by the streetlight through our window because we'd had the electricity shut off again. I learned to be resourceful, learned to make something from nothing. Learned that being poor wasn't a character flaw, it was a circumstance, and circumstances could change if you were smart enough and worked hard enough. I was good at math, really good. My teachers noticed, got me into a special STEM program at a better school across town. I'd take 2 buses each way, leave at 6 a.m., get home at 7 p.m., but it was worth it because that program taught me coding and I fell in love with it, with the logic, the problem solving, the way you could build entire worlds from just ideas and syntax. By 16, I was building websites for small businesses, charging $50 a site, saving every penny because I knew college was the only way out, and my mom couldn't afford to send me. I applied to 15 schools, got into 12, but even with scholarships and financial aid, there were gaps, thousands of dollars. I ended up at a state school studying computer science, worked 30 hours a week at Target, lived off campus in a basement apartment that cost $300 a month and had mold on the ceiling. I ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches, wore clothes from donation bins, and maintained a 3.9 GPA because I couldn't afford to fail, literally couldn't afford it. Every semester was a calculation of loans and work hours and whether I could make the numbers work. Junior year, I had an idea, a app that would help low-income families find and access social services, food banks, housing assistance, healthcare, all in one place. Because I'd watched my mom struggle to navigate that system, watched her waste hours calling different offices and filling out redundant paperwork, and I thought there had to be a better way. I built the first version in my basement apartment over Christmas break, launched it for free in Detroit, and within 3 months, 8,000 people were using it. I added features, partnered with local nonprofits. And by graduation, I had 50,000 users and actual impact metrics showing we were helping people, but I had no money, no investors, no business model, just an app that worked and a belief it could scale. I moved back to Detroit after graduation, couldn't afford San Francisco or New York, lived with my mom in that same one-bedroom apartment, slept on the couch, worked part-time at Best Buy to pay my share of rent while building my company at night. I applied for grants, pitched at startup competitions, sent hundreds of emails to investors, and got rejected over and over. That venture capitalist Robert Chen, I met him at a tech conference in Chicago that I'd scraped together money to attend. I had 3 minutes to pitch, wore a suit I'd bought at Goodwill for $20, showed him my app, my user numbers, my vision for scaling nationally, and he looked at my prototype, running on my cracked screen phone, and said, "This is cute, it's a nice nonprofit idea, but there's no money in serving poor people. Investors want returns, not charity work. And honestly, you don't have the polish or connections to succeed in this space. Maybe think about getting a job at an established company and learning the business first." I stood there holding my phone, feeling like I'd been slapped. I'd worked 3 years building something that actually helped people, had real users, real impact, and he dismissed it in 30 seconds because I didn't look the part, didn't have the right background, was trying to serve a market he didn't value. I went back to my hotel room, the cheapest one I could find 40 minutes outside the city, and I cried. Not because he rejected me, but because I was starting to believe maybe he was right, maybe I didn't belong in this world, maybe being poor had taught me the wrong lessons. Then I called my mom, told her what happened, and she said, "Baby, that man doesn't understand that being poor is your advantage. You know things he'll never know. You see opportunities he's blind to. Don't let someone who's never struggled tell you what's valuable." That conversation changed everything. I stopped trying to fit into their version of success and built my own. I changed my business model. Instead of chasing venture capital I bootstrapped, I started charging municipalities and nonprofits a small subscription fee to use advanced features. It wasn't much, but it was sustainable. I hired 2 part-time developers, both from low-income backgrounds like me who got the mission, and we worked out of my mom's apartment building the company slowly and carefully. 2 years later, we were in 40 cities, had 200,000 users, were generating 500,000 in annual revenue. Not enough to get rich, but enough to pay ourselves small salaries and keep growing. I moved into my own apartment, a tiny studio. But mine and I kept building. Then something unexpected happened. A major foundation noticed our work, saw our impact data showing we'd helped 73,000 families access $15 million in services they were entitled to, but didn't know existed. They gave us a $2 million grant to scale nationally. And suddenly everything changed. We hired a real team, built out infrastructure, launched in 150 cities in 6 months, and investors who'd ignored me before started calling. I took meetings because I needed capital to scale faster. Sat across from firms that had rejected me years earlier. And this time, they loved the pitch. Loved the metrics. Loved the mission now that it had validation. But I remembered every rejection, every dismissive comment, every time they'd made me feel like I wasn't enough. Robert Chen's firm reached out, wanted to lead a Series A round, offered me $8 million at a $60 million valuation. I took the meeting just to see his face, walked in wearing a custom suit this time. My company now had 4 million users and 12 million in revenue. And he didn't even remember me at first, just launched into his pitch about how his firm could help us scale, how he believed in our mission. And I let him talk for 20 minutes before I said, "We actually met 3 years ago. I pitched you at that Chicago conference. You told me I didn't have the polish to succeed and that there was no money in serving poor people." He went pale, stammered something about seeing lots of pitches, and I smiled and said, "I'm sure you do, and I'm sure you've missed a lot of good ones because you judged the founder instead of the idea anyway. I don't think your firm is the right fit for us. We're looking for investors who understood this market from the beginning, not ones who only see value once it's validated by others." I walked out of that meeting feeling lighter than I'd felt in years. We closed our Series A with a different firm for $10 million at an $85 million valuation, and we've grown exponentially since. Today we're in all 50 states. We have 12 million users. We generate $48 million in annual revenue. We've helped families access over $2 billion in services, and my personal net worth is $43 million. Last month, Robert Chen requested another meeting. His firm was raising a new fund and wanted to invest in our Series B. I agreed to meet just for closure and watching him pitch me. Watching him try to convince me his firm would add value. Watching him pretend he'd always believed in the mission. It was satisfying in a way I can't fully describe. I let him finish his pitch, then I said, "You were right about one thing. There is no money in serving poor people. There's money in empowering poor people, in building tools that help them access what they're entitled to, in creating systems that work for everyone, not just the wealthy." You couldn't see that. Because you've never been poor. You've never had to choose between medicine and food. You've never navigated a system designed to make you give up. Being poor was my first teacher, and it taught me things your MBA never could. It taught me resilience, creativity, empathy, and how to see opportunities in places you ignore. He tried to respond, something about respecting my journey. And I cut him off. "We're going with another firm, one that gets it. But I appreciate you taking the time." And I stood up and left him sitting there. My mom came to our Series B announcement, watched me on stage talking about our growth and impact, and afterward she hugged me and whispered, "I'm so proud of you. You took everything that was supposed to hold you back and turned it into your advantage." And she was right. Being poor could have broken me, could have convinced me I didn't belong. That success was for people with different backgrounds and better connections. But instead it became my education, my motivation, my superpower. Because I understood my users in ways wealthy founders never could, I built for them not as charity but as equals, and that authenticity, that genuine understanding, that's what made the company work. I'm 32 now. I employ 67 people, most from backgrounds similar to mine. We're profitable, growing, changing lives. And I still remember what it felt like to water down the milk, to wear holes in my jeans, to be dismissed because I didn't have polish. I remember all of it, and I use it every meeting, every decision, every time someone underestimates me. Here's what being poor taught me that business school never could. Resourcefulness beats resources, hunger beats comfort, understanding your customer beats assumptions about your customer, and the people who doubt you based on your background are telling you more about their limitations than yours. Robert Chen looked at a poor girl from Detroit and saw someone who didn't belong. I looked at myself and saw someone who understood a market of 40 million Americans living in poverty, who had lived experience that couldn't be bought or taught, who had credibility with users that came from shared struggle, not market research. And I built a company that's worth more than his entire fund because I didn't let his blindness become my ceiling. If you enjoyed my story, please like and subscribe, and share this with anyone who's ever been counted out because of where they came from or what they didn't have. Because here's the truth: poverty is not a disqualification, it's data, it's experience, it's perspective. And in the right hands, it becomes power. Being poor was my first teacher, and it taught me everything I needed to know about building something that matters. About seeing what others miss, about turning disadvantage into advantage. I'm not successful despite being poor, I'm successful because I was poor. And that difference, that reframe, that's what changes everything.